The morning sun cast long shadows across the clean streets of Sky Hill, the most expensive neighborhood in New Seoul. Jin Park's running shoes hit the pavement in a steady rhythm. 1-2, 1-2. His breathing was controlled, even after 5 miles. The cool air filled his lungs as sweat rolled down his dark skin. Jin had moved to Sky Hill only 2 weeks ago. The houses here were big, with high walls and fancy gardens. It was very different from where he grew up. But after his 3rd gold medal at the Olympics last year, he could finally afford to live in a place like this. He checked his watch. 6:15 a.m. Perfect timing. He needed to be at the Seoul Aerospace Research Institute by 8:00 a.m. The team was counting on him. As the lead scientist on the new spaceship engine, Jin had a lot of responsibility. "Hey, you, stop right there." Jin slowed down. A woman in expensive clothes stood in front of her house, pointing at him. Her face was angry. Jin stopped running and took out his earbuds. "Can I help you?" he asked politely. The woman walked closer. She was in her 40s, with perfect hair and makeup, even this early in the morning. Her name was Eun-ji Kim, though Jin didn't know that yet. "What are you doing in this neighborhood?" she demanded. Her voice was sharp and cold. Jin smiled. He was used to this. "I'm just out for my morning run, ma'am." "Don't ma'am me. This is a private neighborhood. You don't belong here." She looked him up and down, taking in his dark skin, his running clothes, and his strong build. "Actually, I live here now. I moved in 2 weeks ago." The blue house on Oak Street. Jin kept his voice calm. Eun-ji laughed. It wasn't a nice laugh. "Really? You expect me to believe that? What do you really want here? Are you checking which houses to break into?" Jin felt a familiar tightness in his chest, the same feeling he got when he was a child and other kids made fun of his parents' North Korean accent, the same feeling he got when people told him that Black Koreans couldn't be scientists or athletes. He took a deep breath. "I understand your concern for the neighborhood, but I assure you I live here now." Jin spoke carefully, the way he did in press conferences. "Show me your ID then." Eun-ji crossed her arms. "Prove it." "I don't carry ID when I run," Jin explained. "But my name is Jin Park. I work at the Seoul Aerospace Research Institute." Eun-ji pulled out her phone. "I'm calling security. They'll deal with you." Jin sighed. This was not how he wanted to start his day. He had a meeting about the new propulsion system in less than 2 hours. The system that might finally let humans travel to other star systems. "Is there a problem here?" A man walked up to them. He was tall and wore expensive running clothes. Jin recognized him as his neighbor from across the street. "Han." "Good timing," Eun-ji said. "This man claims he lives here. I'm calling security." Han Sung looked at Jin, and his eyes widened. "Wait, you're Jin Park, aren't you? The Olympic champion?" Jin nodded, relieved that someone recognized him. "And the astrophysicist?" Han continued, his voice excited. "I read your paper on quantum propulsion theory last month. Brilliant work." Eun-ji lowered her phone. "What are you talking about, Han?" Han turned to her, his face serious. "Eun-ji, this is Dr. Jin Park. He's won 3 Olympic gold medals in sprinting. He also has a PhD in astrophysics and leads the government's new space program." Han shook his head. "And yes, he's my new neighbor. He bought the Lee's old house." Eun-ji's face changed from angry to confused. She looked at Jin again, this time really seeing him. That's not possible," she said quietly. Jin smiled again, but it didn't reach his eyes. "It was nice meeting you both, but I need to finish my run. I have an important meeting today." He put his earbuds back in and started running again. Behind him, he heard Han explaining to Eun-ji who he was. Jin increased his pace. Running had always been his way to deal with stress. What Jin didn't notice was the security camera on the corner. It had recorded everything. Jin arrived at the Seoul Aerospace Research Institute at 7:45 a.m. After a quick shower in the locker room, he changed into his work clothes, a simple white shirt, black pants, and his lab coat with Dr. Jin Park, Director of Propulsion Systems, written on it. His assistant, Maina, met him in the hallway. "Good morning, Dr. Park. The meeting is set up in Conference Room A. The Minister of Science will be joining by video call." "Thank you, Maina. Any messages?" Jin asked as they walked. "Yes, actually. General Ta called twice. He wants to discuss the military applications of your engine." Jin frowned. "Tell him the same thing we always tell them. This is a peaceful project for exploration, not for weapons." Maina nodded and made a note on her tablet. The conference room was already full when Jin arrived. 10 of the best scientists in Korea were waiting for him. On the large screen at the end of the room, the Minister of Science and the head of the Korean Space Agency were ready for the video call. "Good morning, everyone," Jin said as he took his place at the front of the room. "Today we're going to discuss the final tests for the quantum drive." He connected his tablet to the screen and showed the first slide of his presentation. It was a simple drawing of their new engine next to a traditional rocket engine. "As you can see, our quantum drive is half the size of a standard engine, but produces 10 times the power. The latest simulations show we can reach Mars in just 15 days instead of 7 months." The room filled with excited whispers. Jin continued his presentation, explaining the technical details in simple terms. He was good at this, making complex science easy to understand. It was why the government had chosen him to lead this project. "But the true breakthrough," Jin said, changing to the next slide, "is the effect on the space inside the ship. Our tests show that the quantum field created by the engine actually protects against the radiation of space. This means astronauts would be safer than in any previous spacecraft." The Minister of Science leaned forward on the video screen. "Dr. Park, this is incredible work. When can we expect a working prototype?" 6 months, Jin answered confidently. "Maybe sooner if we get the additional funding we discussed." The meeting continued for another hour. Jin answered questions, explained difficult concepts, and laid out the plan for the next phase of the project. By the end, everyone was excited about the possibilities. As the meeting ended and people left the room, Maina approached Jin with a worried look on her face. "Dr. Park, I think you should see this." She handed him her tablet. On the screen was a video. Jin recognized it immediately. It was the encounter with Yoonji from this morning. The security camera had caught everything, and someone had uploaded it to the internet. The title of the video was "Racist Woman Yells at Black Jogger, but He's a World-Renowned Olympian." Jin closed his eyes for a moment. This was not what he needed today. "It's already got 50,000 views," Maina said quietly, "and several news sites have picked it up." Jin handed the tablet back to her. "Let's not worry about this right now. We have more important things to focus on." But as he walked back to his office, Jin knew this wasn't going to go away easily. In a world where Earth was just starting to join a community of alien civilizations, incidents like this were damaging. The Galactic Confederation had strict rules about acceptance and equality. They were already concerned about Earth's readiness to join the interstellar community. Jin sat at his desk and looked at the picture of his parents. They had sacrificed everything to give him opportunities. They had faced discrimination as North Korean refugees, and they had supported him through every challenge. "I won't let this distract me," he promised himself. "We have a galaxy to explore." Outside his window, the sky was clear and blue. Soon, humans would be traveling among the stars. And Jin was going to make sure that happened, no matter what obstacles stood in his way. By the next morning, the video had over 5 million views. News channels played it again and again. Everyone was talking about Yoonji Kim and Jin Park. Jin tried to ignore it. He sat in his home office, looking at data from yesterday's engine test. The numbers were good, but not good enough. The quantum drive needed to be perfect if humans wanted to join the Pan-Galactic Games. His phone rang. It was the Minister of Science. "Dr. Park," said the minister, "I hope you're doing well after yesterday's incident." Jin sighed. "I'm fine, Minister. I'm more concerned about our project timeline. That's why I'm calling. The President wants to meet you. The Galactic Council has sent a message about the video." Jin sat up straight. The Galactic Council saw it. How? The Internet is connected to the Galactic Network now, remember? They monitor our public communications. They say this incident shows that humans still have concerning social issues. They're questioning if Earth is ready for the games. Jin rubbed his forehead. Earth had only learned about alien life 3 years ago, when the Galactic Confederation made contact. Since then, humans had been working hard to meet the standards for full membership. The Pan-Galactic Games were a huge opportunity to prove themselves. "I'll meet with the President," Jin said. "But the project can't slow down. We have only 6 months before the Games." "There's one more thing," the minister added. "The President has chosen Kim Aerospace to build components for your engine." Jin froze. Kim Aerospace, as in Yoonji Kim's company. "Yes, they're the best in the field, and we need the best. You'll be working directly with her." After the call ended, Jin went for a run. He needed to clear his head. This time, he ran on his treadmill at home. He wasn't ready to face his neighbors again. Yoonji Kim sat in her large office, staring at her computer screen. Her company's stock had dropped 15% overnight. Her social media accounts were filled with angry messages. Even her friends weren't answering her calls. Her assistant knocked on the door. "Ms. Kim, the board of directors is ready for their emergency meeting." Yoonji nodded and stood up. She straightened her expensive suit and walked to the conference room. 10 serious faces looked at her as she entered. Mr. Choi, the oldest board member, spoke first. "Yoonji, this is a disaster. Kim Aerospace has been building our reputation for 40 years. Your father would be very disappointed." Yoonji lowered her head. "I understand. My behavior was inappropriate." "It's worse than inappropriate," said Mrs. Lee from marketing. "It's now a galactic incident. The aliens are watching us, and you've made Earth look bad." Yoonji looked up in surprise. "The aliens saw it." Mr. Choi nodded. "Yes, and now the government has given us an opportunity to fix this. We've been selected to build components for the new quantum drive." "Dr. Park's quantum drive?" Yoonji asked quietly. "Yes, you will personally oversee this project. You will work directly with Dr. Park. And you will make this right, or you will lose your position as CEO. Is that clear?" Yoonji swallowed hard. "Yes, sir. Very clear." After the meeting, Yoonji went to her father's old office. It was kept exactly as it was before he died 3 years ago. She looked at his picture on the wall. "What would you do, father?" she whispered. Her father had built Kim Aerospace from nothing. He was tough but fair. He never judged people by how they looked. He only cared about their abilities and their character. Yoonji sat in his chair and made a decision. She would apologize to Dr. Park. She would work with him and help make the quantum drive a success. She would save her company and help Earth join the Galactic Confederation properly. She just hoped it wasn't too late. Jin walked into the president's office. It was his first time in the Blue House, Korea's presidential building. The president stood to greet him. "Dr. Park, thank you for coming on such short notice. It's an honor, Mr. President." They sat down, and the president got straight to the point. "The Galactic Council is concerned about the incident. They've sent a representative to discuss it." As if on cue, a door opened and a tall figure entered. It wasn't human. It had blue skin, 4 arms, and large, intelligent eyes. It wore a simple white robe with the Galactic Confederation symbol. "Dr. Park, this is Ambassador Zor. He represents the Galactic Council on Earth." Jin stood and bowed slightly. It's an honor to meet you, Ambassador. Zor bowed back. The honor is mine, Dr. Park. Your scientific work is impressive, as are your athletic achievements. They all sat down, and Zor continued. I must address the incident that occurred yesterday. It has caused concern among council members. It was just one person, the president said quickly. Most humans aren't like that. Zor held up one of his 4 hands. We understand that all species have individuals with problematic views. What concerns us is how common such views might be on Earth. Jin spoke carefully. Ambassador, humans have struggled with these issues for a long time. We've made progress, but we still have work to do. I believe that joining the Galactic Confederation will help us grow as a species. Zor looked at Jin with his large eyes. Your response to the incident was admirable, Dr. Park. You showed restraint and dignity. These are qualities the Confederation values. Thank you, Jin said. But the Council needs more reassurance, Zor continued. That's why we have a proposal. The woman in the video. Yoonji Kim, the president supplied. Yes, Ms. Kim. Her company will work with you on the quantum drive. If you can successfully collaborate despite your differences, it would demonstrate humanity's capacity to overcome prejudice. Jin was surprised. So this was your idea. Zor made a gesture that might have been a smile. The council believes in practical tests. Dr. Park, this is yours. After the meeting, Jin walked out of the Blue House with a lot on his mind. Working with Yoonji Kim would be challenging, but if it helped Earth join the Galactic Confederation and participate in the Pan-Galactic Games, he would do it. His phone rang. It was a number he didn't recognize. Hello, Dr. Park speaking. Dr. Park, this is Yoonji Kim. Jin stopped walking. Ms. Kim, I want to apologize for my behavior. It was inexcusable. Jin was silent for a moment. Thank you for your apology. I understand we'll be working together on the quantum drive project. Yes, that's correct. There was an awkward pause. I want you to know, Yoonji said finally, that I will be professional. My company will deliver the best components possible for your engine. I won't let personal issues get in the way. I appreciate that, Jin said. The success of this project is important for all of humanity. Can we meet tomorrow? At your lab? I'd like to see the engine designs. Jin thought about it. Yes. Come at 10 a.m. We'll have a lot to discuss. After the call ended, Jin looked up at the sky. Somewhere up there, thousands of alien civilizations were waiting to see if humans were worthy of joining them. The Pan-Galactic Games would be their best chance to prove it. He thought about Yoonji Kim and their upcoming collaboration. It wouldn't be easy, but nothing important ever was. Jin started walking again, his mind already working on the engine modifications they would need to make. If they succeeded, humans would travel to the stars. They would compete against aliens in the greatest sporting event in the galaxy. And maybe, just maybe, they would show the universe that humans could be better than their worst moments. The research lab was buzzing with activity when Yoonji arrived the next morning. Scientists in white coats moved between workstations. Complex machines hummed and beeped. In the center of the large room stood a metal ring about 3 meters across. This was the heart of the quantum drive. Jin was talking to a group of engineers when he spotted Yoonji. He excused himself and walked over to her. Ms. Kim, welcome to the Quantum Propulsion Lab. Yoonji tried to hide her nervousness. Thank you for having me, Dr. Park. This is impressive. Jin nodded. Let me show you what we're working on. For the next hour, Jin explained the quantum drive. He used simple terms that Yoonji could understand, even though she had an engineering background. The drive worked by creating a field around the ship that changed how space and time behaved. This would allow the ship to move faster than light without breaking the laws of physics. The parts we need from Kim Aerospace are these, Jin said, showing her diagrams on a large screen. They have to be perfect. Even a tiny flaw could cause the whole system to fail. Young studied the diagrams carefully. These are challenging, but we can make them. My father developed a special metal alloy that might work well for these components. Jin looked surprised. Your father was an engineer? Yes, he built Kim Aerospace from nothing. He started in a small garage, making parts for regular airplanes. Before he died, he was working on space technology. Something changed in Jin's expression. I didn't know that. Young-jae looked at the quantum drive again. How fast will this ship go? Fast enough to reach Alpha Centauri in 3 days. Fast enough to get us to the Pan-Galactic Games on time. And you'll be competing in the games? Young-jae asked. Jin nodded. Yes. I'll run in the 100-meter sprint against aliens from all over the galaxy. He smiled slightly. Some of them have 6 legs, so I'll need all the help I can get. For the first time, they shared a small laugh. The tension between them eased a little. Over the next few weeks, Jin and Young-jae worked together every day. Kim Aerospace's engineers joined the team at the lab. Progress was good, but they still faced many challenges. One evening, they were alone in the lab, reviewing test results. Jin looked tired. You should rest, Young-jae said. You can't work 20 hours a day, even if you are an Olympic athlete. Jin rubbed his eyes. There's too much to do. Why is this so important to you? Young-jae asked. Beyond the science, I mean. Jin was quiet for a moment. Then he went to his desk and picked up a photo. It showed a young boy with his parents. They were standing in front of a small rundown house. This is me when I was 10, he said, showing her the photo. My parents escaped from North Korea when I was a baby. We lived in a tiny house in the poorest part of Seoul. Young-jae looked at the photo, surprised. I didn't know. My parents worked so hard to give me opportunities. My mother cleaned houses. My father worked in factories. They saved every penny to buy me books about space and science. Jin put the photo down. They believed I could be anything, even when others told me I couldn't. Young-jae felt ashamed, remembering how she had treated him. When I was in school, Jin continued, a teacher told me that people like me, Black Koreans, refugee kids, couldn't be scientists or athletes, that we should stick to simple jobs. He looked at the quantum drive. I spent my whole life proving that teacher wrong. Young-jae was quiet for a moment. I'm sorry for what I did. I was wrong. Jin nodded. I know. My father would have been disappointed in me, she said softly. He always said to judge people by their work, not by how they look. They went back to reviewing the test results, but something had changed between them. They weren't just colleagues now. They were starting to understand each other. 3 months passed. The quantum drive was almost complete. Kim Aerospace had delivered all the components, and they were perfect. The first test of the full system was scheduled for the next day. Jin, Young-jae, and the entire team worked late into the night, checking every detail. The president and Ambassador Zor would be there to witness the test. Everything looks good, Jin said, checking the final numbers on his tablet. We should all get some rest before tomorrow, Young-jae suggested. As the team was leaving, Jin's assistant, Mina, rushed in. Dr. Park, someone has been in the lab. Jin looked alarmed. What do you mean? Security footage shows someone in a lab coat entering after hours 2 days ago. They were at the quantum drive for 10 minutes. Jin immediately went to the drive and began checking it. Young-jae followed. Could it be sabotage? She asked quietly. I'm not sure, Jin said, examining the machine carefully. Everything looks normal. But he stopped suddenly. There, look at this connection. It's been changed. Young-jae looked where he was pointing. A small part was slightly out of place. What does it do? She asked. If we had started the drive tomorrow, it would have created a power surge. The whole system would have exploded. They looked at each other, shocked. Who would do this? Young-jae asked. Jin was already checking the security footage on his tablet. Let's find out. The video showed a person in a lab coat working on the quantum drive. They kept their face hidden from the cameras. We can't see who it is, Jin said, frustrated. Eun-jae looked more closely at the video. Wait, look at their hands. The person had 6 fingers on each hand. That's not human, Eun-jae whispered. Jin's face was grim. No, it's not. Some aliens don't want us at the Pan-Galactic Games. We need to tell Ambassador Zor, Eun-jae said. Not yet, Jin replied. First, we need to fix the drive and make sure it's safe. Then we'll deal with the sabotage. They worked through the night, fixing the damaged connection and checking the entire system again. By morning, everything was ready for the test. The President and Ambassador Zor arrived with a group of officials. Everyone gathered in the observation room, which had thick glass walls to protect them from the test area. Jin explained what they had found and fixed. Ambassador Zor looked troubled. There are species in the Confederation who believe humans aren't ready to join, he admitted. They may be behind this. Well, said the President, let's prove them wrong. Jin started the test sequence. The quantum drive began to hum. Lights on the control panel turned green one by one. The metal ring in the center began to glow with a blue light. Energy levels stable, Jin reported. Field forming correctly. Everyone watched as the blue glow grew stronger. It formed a perfect sphere inside the metal ring. Field is stable, Jin said. We're at 50% power. Suddenly, warning lights flashed on the panel. The blue sphere flickered. Something's wrong, Jin said, typing quickly on the keyboard. The field is becoming unstable. Eun-jae moved to his side, looking at the readings. The power flow is irregular. We missed something. The blue sphere pulsed dangerously. Alarms sounded throughout the lab. Everyone out, Jin shouted. Clear the building. People rushed toward the exits. Jin stayed at the controls, trying to shut down the drive safely. You need to go too, he told Eun-jae. I'm not leaving, she said firmly. She pointed to one of the displays. Look, the new connectors are overheating. If we can cool them quickly, we might save the drive. Jin looked at her with surprise and respect. There's an emergency cooling system, but we'd have to get closer to the drive to activate it. Then let's go, Eun-jae said. Together, they entered the test area. The blue sphere was pulsing faster now, sending waves of energy through the room. They reached the emergency panel and activated the cooling system. Immediately, cold gas sprayed onto the overheating parts. The blue sphere began to stabilize. The alarms stopped. Jin and Eun-jae looked at each other, breathing hard but smiling with relief. We did it, Jin said. Yes, Eun-jae replied. We did. In that moment, they weren't just colleagues who had overcome their differences. They were partners who had saved humanity's chance to reach the stars. 2 months later, Earth's first quantum-powered spaceship was ready. They named it Hope. It would carry Earth's athletes to the Pan-Galactic Games. Jin stood in the launch area, looking at the ship. It was sleek and beautiful. The quantum drive was hidden inside, but Jin knew every part of it by heart. Impressive, isn't it? Eun-jae said, walking up beside him. Jin nodded. I still can't believe we finished it in time. After they had saved the quantum drive from the sabotage attempt, Jin and Eun-jae had worked even harder. The investigation had revealed that a group of advanced alien species called the Elites had been behind the sabotage. They didn't want humans in the Galactic Confederation because they thought humans were too primitive and violent. Are you ready for tomorrow? Eun-jae asked. Tomorrow was launch day. Jin would be on the ship, not just as a scientist, but as an athlete. He would represent Earth in the 100-meter sprint at the Games. I think so, Jin said. My training has been good, though I haven't had as much time for it as I'd like. Well, I have something that might help. Eun-jae handed him a small package. Jin opened it. Inside was a sleek running suit made of a shiny silver material. "What is this?" he asked. "Something my team at Kim Aerospace has been working on in secret. It's made with technology we learned from studying the quantum drive. It doesn't break any rules of the games, but it will help your muscles work at peak efficiency." Jin looked at her in surprise. "You did this for me?" Yoon-ji smiled. "For you, for Earth, for all of us. We're in this together now." The next day, thousands of people gathered to watch the Hope launch. The ship stood on the pad, gleaming in the morning sun. Jin and 30 other athletes, the best from Earth, were ready to board. The president made a speech about how far humanity had come since first contact with the Galactic Confederation. Ambassador Zor spoke about the importance of the Pan-Galactic Games as a peaceful way for different species to compete and learn from each other. When it was Jin's turn to speak, he kept it simple. "Today, humans will travel faster than light for the first time. We will join thousands of other species at the greatest sporting event in the galaxy. But this isn't just about sports or science. It's about showing what humans can do when we work together, when we overcome our differences and our prejudices." He looked at Yoon-ji in the crowd. She nodded to him. "We've been told that humans are too primitive, too violent, too divided to join the galactic community. At the Games, we'll show that we belong among the stars. Thank you." The crowd cheered as Jin and the other athletes boarded the ship. The countdown began. 10, 9, 8. Jin sat in his seat, thinking about the long journey that had brought him here. From a poor refugee child to an Olympic champion. From a boy who loved the stars to the scientist who would help humanity reach them. 3, 2, 1, launch. The Hope rose smoothly from the pad. It climbed higher and higher, soon leaving Earth's atmosphere. When it reached orbit, the quantum drive activated. The stars outside seemed to stretch into lines. There was a brief feeling of pressure, and then they were traveling faster than light. The journey to the Pan-Galactic Games had begun. 3 days later, they arrived at Centauri Prime, the planet hosting the Games. It orbited Alpha Centauri, the closest star system to Earth. The planet was covered with huge stadiums and buildings designed to accommodate thousands of different alien species. As Earth's athletes left their ship, they were met by a crowd of aliens of all shapes and sizes. Some had 6 legs, others had wings. Some were tall as trees, others small as cats. All were curious about the humans. Ambassador Zor introduced Jin to the Galactic Council members who were present. Most were friendly. But Jin noticed some cold looks from the elite species, the ones who had tried to sabotage the quantum drive. "They're still not happy we're here," Jin whispered to Yoon-ji, who had come as part of Earth's official delegation. "Let them be unhappy," she replied. "We earned our place." The opening ceremony was amazing. 10,000 athletes from 5,000 planets paraded through a stadium that could hold 1 million spectators. Earth's team was one of the smallest, but they received loud cheers. Many aliens were curious about this new species joining the Games. For the next week, Jin watched his fellow athletes compete in various events. Humans won some medals in swimming and gymnastics, surprising many alien species, but the most anticipated event was still to come, the 100-meter sprint. On the day of the race, Jin wore the special running suit Yoon-ji had given him. It felt light and comfortable, almost like a second skin. He warmed up carefully, studying his competition. There were 8 competitors in the final. Jin was the only human. The others included a 4-legged alien that looked like a cheetah, a tall blue alien with incredibly long legs, and a small green alien that moved like a blur when it ran. Jin took his place at the starting line. The stadium was silent. Billions across the galaxy were watching. In the stands, Yoon-ji held her breath. She knew how important this was, not just for Jin, but for all of humanity. The starter gave the signal. The race began. Jin exploded from the blocks, just as he had done in 3 Olympics. But this time, he felt different. The running suit seemed to enhance every movement, making his muscles work perfectly together. He felt faster than ever before. But the aliens were fast too. The cheetah-like alien took an early lead. The blue alien with long legs was right behind. Jin was in third place at the halfway point. Yoonji watched, her heart pounding. "Come on, Jin," she whispered. "Show them what humans can do." Jin pushed harder. His years of training, his determination, his desire to prove that humans belonged here, all of it came together in a final burst of speed. He passed the blue alien. Then, meter by meter, he caught up to the cheetah-like alien. With just 10 meters left, Jin pulled ahead. He crossed the finish line first. The stadium erupted in cheers. Humans had won their first gold medal in track at the Pan-Galactic Games. Jin stood, breathing hard but smiling. He had done it. He had shown the galaxy what humans could achieve. In the stands, Yoonji was jumping up and down, tears in her eyes. Ambassador Zor looked pleased. Even some of the elite aliens seemed impressed. At the medal ceremony, Jin stood on the top platform. When they placed the gold medal around his neck, he thought of his parents, of his long journey, of all the obstacles he had overcome. He thought of Yoonji too, and how their story had begun with an ugly moment but had transformed into something positive. They had moved past prejudice to become friends and partners. In a way, their story was humanity's story in the galaxy, starting with misunderstanding but moving toward cooperation and mutual respect. After the ceremony, Jin met Yoonji outside the stadium. "We did it," he said, showing her the medal. "You did it," she corrected him. Jin shook his head. "No, we did it together. The ship, the drive, the running suit, none of it would have been possible without you." Yoonji smiled. "So what's next?" Jin looked up at the night sky, filled with stars. Each one might have planets with new alien species to meet, new challenges to overcome. "Next, we build more ships. We explore the galaxy. We learn from other species and teach them what we know. And we make sure that humanity's best qualities, our creativity, our determination, our ability to grow and change, are what the galaxy remembers us for." They walked together toward the Earth delegation's quarters. Two people who had started as enemies, but were now partners in humanity's greatest adventure. Above them, the stars of a new galaxy full of possibilities shone brightly against the night sky.